Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that celebrates the worldwide fan base of the mighty Glasgow Celtic. From Aberystwyth to Aberdeen, or the other way around, from Coatbridge to Coatow, wherever you're watching from, you're not only very welcome, but you're very much part of A Celtic World. And who do we have with us here? Well, we have Paul in Perth, first of all. Hello, Paul.
Good evening. Nice to be here again.
And Ian in Cymru. Is that pronounced correctly? Oh, is he still mute? He's still mute. Dear. Sorry, Ian.
Yeah, no, I was just saying I think my microphone's still muted. No, hello to everyone. Off to a great start.
Well, given the way it has started recently, that was actually pretty smooth. There was no huffing and puffing and extra delay before our faces appeared. So that's the good news. Hello to everyone who's joining us in the chat. Frank and Christoph and David and Smell and various others. That's a funny name, isn't it? Smell. Imagine calling your child that.
Second name, the glove.
Yeah. All right. So what are we talking about today, gents? Well, it's been a while since we've been on live, thanks to the international break. So we're going to talk about our experience of the international break, what's been happening on the channel. We'll talk a bit about the news that's in the ether about Celtic at the moment right now. And then preview, which is us looking forward to the game against the Sheep. Do you like that, Paul?
Yeah, tickled me.
You groan and shake your head, but secretly you're enjoying it. All right. And then a little bit of...
I think you can ram it.
Okay.
Very good.
Ian, would you like to proffer something?
I don't think I'm quick enough today to be with the sheep related puns. Maybe it'll just come out of nowhere. We'll see.
Ian's being like a meek little lamb.
All right. Let's get the flock out of here and move on. Drop all this nonsense. All right. So what are we going to be talking about? Well, first thing is the last few episodes. They've been a lot of fun for me in the international break. Really enjoyed them. By the way, if anyone echoes over these images, can somebody in the chat please tell us so we can address that? Shouldn't happen with me. Here is one of the episodes we had. We had Lisbon Lion on. If you're on Twitter, you'll probably recognize the name Lisbon Lion. He's got a very well-followed Twitter handle. And his name is PJ or Pat Marinan, and he's written a book called The Bridges of Glasgow, which he told us all about 3 episodes ago, all about, early Irish immigrants in Glasgow settling in. And that sounds very interesting. And then we had John White was on, who's writing a book called Jungle Days, supporting Celtic in the 1980s. And it's part memoir, part social history. And then we spoke to the Detroit CSC, which was great fun. Very interesting to get to know them. So this is where I throw it over to the boys and they tell me they watched every episode and what were their highlights from those 3.
Well, I was half expecting Dave to just pop in now. Such was the delay in the Lisbon Lion one. It was a really good episode, but it was like Keystone Cops waiting for him to come back with his answer. I think there was a certain charm to that episode, Gav. I think there was a certain charm to it. There was a lot of good stuff in it. Enjoyed it. I haven't seen the other 2 yet, just because as we'll go on to the international break, I tend to try and detach now from most things kind of football and Celtic. But yeah, I watched that one because I was still kind of in the tail end of being involved and stuff. So it was a good one, even though there were some wee issues.
Some wee issues. There's a wee issue in chat. Of course, I know the derivation of Smell the Glove. I was just having a wee laugh. That might be your actual name. First name Smell, family name Glove, middle name The. Paul, did you see what did you watch? You saw some of the Detroit CSC. I think you watched
So
that
most
one.
of the Detroit CSC before the edit, which I really enjoyed. I as I said to you, I missed a bit of the. I think you edited some of the stuff about actual Detroit because you felt the viewership may not enjoy such a detailed history lesson on the geography of an American city. But to be honest, that's one of my favourite bits of those shows is understanding where they are at in not just the geography, but also in the timeline of history. It took me by surprise that Detroit was had somewhat of a revitalization to quite the degree it had. I thought they were still like in the doldrums a little bit, which had been the case, but obviously time moves fast. And so yeah, enjoyed that episode. It's great to see the American guys. I saw the Lisbon Lion episode. Yep, it was good content, but pretty hard to watch with the delay. And I've only watched a little bit of John White, but I really want to get into that because that's the era that I started following Celtic. So obviously was starting to go to games mid to late 80s, and obviously I know it was sort of the bit I was watching was starting to get into that, but I need to watch the rest of the episode, which is obviously the backdrop of what was going on in the 80s in terms of the politics and economics and all of that, which I find that pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, looking forward to watching the rest of that in due course. But yeah, as usual, good content that you put together for the international break, rather than just churning the same old with a bit of international football and a bit of speculation of who might not be injured.
Yes, we'll be doing that on this show.
We'll be doing that today.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was really good. The only one issue is, the Detroit CSC one was a recording, and then I played it. For some reason, it came out really, really blurry. And I had tested that in advance with some people from a Celtic world. I put it on YouTube unlisted, but gave everyone the link and asked for their feedback, different ways of playing it. It was all good. And then, of course, when it comes to opening night on Broadway, you hit play and it's not good.
You might have to sack Restream, Gavin. Find somebody else.
I think what I might have to do is, when I record with Americans or whatever, I just put it out as a video and just, publish it at this time, and then people can watch it, but there's no live interaction. That's the only way to guarantee its quality, I think. So, yeah, I really enjoyed International Week. It's been pretty poor. Why do I always have my curtains closed, man?
Because it's night.
Yeah, it's night.
Monty can't see in, Gav. Monty's complaining. Monty's over there with a pair of binoculars.
It's dark. It's 6:11 p.m. and the sun has already set, so it's black outside. And it's been really raining all day. So, I mean, hit us with the important questions straight from the off there. There you go.
It's because he's actually broadcasting this from Ibrox, Monty. He's in the room next door to the parks.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, that was the international break. Good episodes. And I hope we get at least Pat and John back on again. They both said they were willing to return. So, John, I know, is sourcing headphones because anyone who takes appearing on a podcast seriously will have headphones readily available to them. Right, Ian?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's move it on to the news then. I can see the guys are very keen to get cracking on the news front. So, Paul Tisdale appointed Celtic's head of football operations. Can we do a little test here? Ian, can you say, can you read the headline yourself and see if it echoes?
Paul Tisdale appointed Celtic's head of football operations.
Okay, and then the people in the chat can tell us if that echoed. Yeah, this is the news.
It echo.
It echoed for
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
And I can hear my echo as well.
Okay. In that case, I shall, what shall I do? Continue talking. Paul Tisdale, anyway, he's been appointed. Rodgers, they reckoned, had a fair bit to do with it, and he's looking forward to it. He says he knows modern football inside out. He understands what we need as a club, what our team needs to operate at a high level, and how we can develop positively and successfully across a number of functions within the club. I trust I'm not echoing.
You are not. You are not.
People in the chat tell me that I wasn't echoing, but that both of you two were, because the sound is coming out of your machines. That's the problem. Anyway, Paul Tisdale. Paul, what's your reaction?
Well, first up, kind of, it sort of doesn't. The first thing is, for me, it doesn't matter that who it is. It obviously does, but it's good that we've got somebody in the seat, because that acknowledges that there's an issue that needed fixing. Then obviously it does matter the quality of the individual, and from what I've sort of found out myself and read a little bit, seems like a good appointment. Don't know if anyone's seen it. I will share it. I haven't shared it as yet. There's an hour-long interview with him on YouTube on a thing called The Business of Sport, and it basically, I assume I've only got as far as about a third to halfway through, but it sounds like it's going to be chronological about his career right up to whenever it was recorded, which I think it was relatively recently. And it basically talks about, how he operates, how he got into how he did. Obviously, he's played in the Premier League. He talks a lot about he didn't really fulfill his potential in football even before he got the injury, and that he was playing up until I think about 16, 18. He was playing a lot of cricket and football at pretty much at the same time, to a similar level. And he talked a bit in that about environment, and he said the cricket environment worked great for him. He thrived in it, and he sort of, the way that worked, and it was clear what he had to do. Whereas in the football environment, he just didn't really settle in it, and never really had the same sort of fit or feel. And he said that was the biggest lesson that he learned really early, was environment trumps everything. He also talks about attitude of players and stuff, and he says personality is bigger than what do you say? Personality is bigger than personality bigger than attitude. So you can have a good attitude or a bad attitude, but you can help work on that. But the player's personality doesn't really, you can't really influence that to such the same degree. So he would pick a player based on their personality and fit. And Ange talked a lot about this, about good humans and all that sort of stuff. And Brendan has to a certain degree. So yeah, I just really like in the little bit that I watched. It talks about him getting injured and then sort of having to turn his hand to sort of falling into coaching, and sort of how he applies himself. He's a Brendan Rodgers type character. You'll see why him and Brendan, like, he's not shy in tooting his own horn. So clearly there's some synergy with the manager there, but I don't mind that. And his time at Exeter, he talks a lot about the fact that his job was really to realize assets and sell them for a profit and continue to make the club function. Now, that's a massive part of his job. Now, we don't know what's going to happen to the transfer system, but I imagine it will still function to some degree, whereby clubs like us will have to develop players and get some sort of remuneration back for them. So yeah, it seems a bit of quirky when he's not, he's been around the traps as a coach and stuff like that. But I like the cut of his jib in terms of how he comes across and how he's functioned in different environments. And he's a good communicator. And he's a linchpin across the football operation. He's going to be working closely with the manager, but he's going to be working with youth development. He's going to be pushing out externally into the market. Communication's king for me in that kind of role, and pretty much in any role, regardless of whether it's football or not. So yeah, I like the cut of his jib. I'm prepared to say, let's give him a chance and see how it pans out. We know he's been involved on a consultancy basis over the summer, and we were all pretty happy with the summer business, albeit maybe it took a little bit longer than we'd have liked. So yeah, I'm glad we've got somebody in the seat. And yeah, let's come and see how he's going to go. He's obviously got a football background, but he's not your typical guy at all. Like, he clearly got a sharp mind and brings that, like I think it was mentioned in some of the press releases, he's got a modern attitude.
That's the word I was just about to say.
Which we absolutely need.
Yeah, he's very much like a modern day player in the game of football, isn't he? I see there's a comment here Paul Tisdale, who? Surely a more high-profile name would entice potential signings. Martin O'Neill should be in that role. Well, I mean, the way things are going, you want to get a guy in who's got the psychological side of things and he knows how a club functions well together, all the various elements. And I think he's a bit of a stats guy. He's data-driven. That's far more where should we be going than, harking back to an old-school person like Martin O'Neill. God bless him. Amazing though he is. And he does come across as maybe a bit of a spiv or something. He's got his, did you see his Peaky Blinders hat and all that? And he calls himself a football doctor and stuff. So there are elements of, well, I maybe wouldn't hang out with this guy, but that's not important. Important thing is he's good at his job. He modernizes Celtic from within. And that's, I think all the right notes are being hit with this appointment in that regard, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he was called Ruud van Tilsdale and he came from like Ajax or something, you'd be like, oh my God, you'd have a certain section that would be like, oh, he's Dutch or he's coming through like the Ajax like system and stuff. There seems to, it's a very, loath to say British, but it is a British football thing, because English football, Scottish football, Welsh football is the same. Tends to be if you have someone that's foreign that's coming in from like a France or a Holland or something or a Germany, they're viewed in a better light. This guy's like, a guy from along the road, so it's not as glamorous. So I get that skepticism because it always comes across. It happens when we have domestic signings over foreign signings, so it's the same principle. But I'm kind of with you guys. It's the job that he's going to do, and I think there's a lot of different ways you can do the job, and I think the most important thing is what's his relationship with Rodgers. He's obviously someone who's progressive. You can buy into the football doctor stuff or all the rest of it and things like that, but I think what Celtic have maybe hired on are the attributes and the intent and getting the appointment directionally correct as opposed to getting it the exact perfect person. So is he going to be the perfect person? If he is the perfect person, he's only going to be with us for 2 or 3 years. That's kind of the same with everything. If he's entirely the wrong person, he's also only going to be with us for 2 or 3 years, but we're not going to know for kind of roughly that period of time anyway. So I think, as Paul was saying, it's a good appointment in terms of they've obviously highlighted the area needs to be addressed. The noises they're making are they've hired him for these reasons, which are modern, progressive reasons, and that's what we need. So give him time. Let's see. It's one cog in a massive wheel of things. Like, do we have a set piece coach? Do we have like a scouting network? Data analysis team? All these sort of things probably need to be incrementally improved, and this is a step towards doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I see some of the comments here, people saying like, well, there's one here about whether Exeter City and MK Dons are a step up or something. What was that?
Hitting the
Well,
right.
no, I think the thing there is right, and again, people who are working like a large corporation, and sometimes when you look at hiring someone, you either look at someone who's ready-made to come in, and sometimes you look at people who are ready to step up and they've got all the attributes, and you start to judge them on the personality and the drive and the transferable skills as opposed to the level they've been operating at, because it's not rocket science. If you are doing it for Exeter and stuff like that, don't get me wrong, Celtic's a much bigger scale, same way as Real Madrid and Barcelona would be a bigger scale again for someone, but it's the core attributes you're looking at, and the ready-made person might cost 3 or 4 times the amount, and they may be just set in their ways. They may not be as progressive. They might not be as willing to take risks. So it's a calculated gamble. I wouldn't look at where he's been. I would look at his character type and like kind of what we're trying to achieve. And you just have to hope that the right decisions have been made to bring him on.
Matt O'Reilly did okay. Matt O'Reilly did okay from MK Dons, didn't he?
Very true.
Yeah, and it's kind of different with footballers as well. I mean, I have no problem with them. I find it really, it's unusual, isn't it, that you see people online saying, oh, not for me. This not good enough. This appointment. It's like, it's one thing for us to have opinions on players because we all watch the game and we have a rough idea of whether a player can trap a ball, has any pace, has a good shot on him, can see a pass, things like that. What the hell do any of us know about backroom staff to be able to have an opinion and write someone off because of the clubs that they've worked in before or whatever, or because they're a bit of a spiv? Yeah, it's absolutely ludicrous, is it not? That people can say, no, not for me, this appointment.
Don't know if he's a spiv. He was voted. I think he was voted the most fashionable manager in the Football League at one point. He's definitely got some quirky ideas, but I don't mind that. Like, if you keep thinking like the same boring old way, you'll get the same sort of results. Like I said, I think he seems like a good communicator. He's massive on environment, and he's going to link the various parts of the football business together and the football operations. Youth development needs a kick up its backside at our place. The same people have been involved for 2 decades, and not enough players end up in the first team. And it is a challenge. And we've talked about how it's a challenge, but if he can in any way help facilitate that, he's going to be working with Darren O'Day on the pathway stuff and the loan system. That's giving O'Day that job's the jobs for the boys, but he's who's to say he can't achieve in that role as well. And if you've got somebody overseeing all of it and sort of judging it on performance, then hopefully we don't just see people like Chris McCart sat in that role for what must be close to 15, 20 years. I'm not saying he shouldn't be in the role anymore, but I would hope that we've got some sort of overlay that if things aren't working, then potentially, people's jobs are at risk and there's opportunities to improve. So yeah, I like the sound of what's coming out of him. Not just, I don't know if he's done any interviews since he's been in the job. I'm not sure if he has, but from the stuff I've found previously, and I'll share that interview. I think there's a bit of interest there.
Okay, I'm going to open another picture and talk over it before coming back to you. This is probably one you've all seen. I'm going to make you mute because there's a bit of background noise. Brendan, wide-eyed Brendan, gesticulating to arms folded. Kieran Tierney, what could he be saying? It's exciting, isn't it? Here's an Arsenal tweet. Arsenal revealed Kieran Tierney loves Arsenal and Celtic. Focusing in on his shin pads there. He's got one Arsenal, one Celtic, which is quite fun. And then there's this story now. This seems to be everywhere. I don't know whether there's any truth in it, but it's quite widespread. Kieran Tierney's eyeing a return to Celtic after a challenging stint at Arsenal. With injuries limiting his time, the former fan favourite could reunite with Brendan Arsenal is open to a loan, paving the way for a potential permanent move. Your thoughts on that, Ian?
My thoughts on that are, I think we're the same as anyone. If you've got pals who live in Glasgow or you've got anyone connected with the club in any way, they've been saying since the beginning of summer that Kieran Tierney's coming back and that his injury scuppered that move. Whether or not there's any truth in that, I don't know, but there's just been so many people saying it. So I was laughing when it had exclusive on it, as if it's not been something that's been talked about for the last 2 or 3 years and all the rumours over the summer. Tierney is a little bit of a divisive figure with some people because he did leave, and some people will never ever kind of forgive this. For me, it was a move that kind of made sense, and given the injury problems he's had, it's probably overall net benefited us. You don't know if he'd have got the same injuries. Would I have him back? If he was a fully fit Kieran Tierney, yes, I think he's a good character to have about, but I think a lot of the discussions around him aren't really about quality. It's always about fitness. Yes, he's an outstanding motivator, leader, player, technically gifted, knows the role well. Potentially at one point was world class. Until injuries hampered him. So the conversations around injuries, if we have a fully fit Kieran Tierney, it's an absolute no-brainer, not just for now, but for long term, because Calmac will relinquish the captaincy, and we need those sort of characters around because James Forrest will be going. So it's a no-brainer, but it depends on fitness.
If he was fully fit, we wouldn't get him, says Michael Ross. Is that accurate, Paul?
I disagree. I'll let Paul go. I disagree. I think he wants to come back to Celtic. I don't think he's going anywhere else. Really, he's made his money now.
And Arsenal have just had enough of all the injury problems.
Well,
even if he
yeah,
is
here's the
fine
thing,
at the
right?
moment.
And that's the thing. If he'd been fit for the majority of his time at Arsenal, you'd imagine that he would have held down that place, and Zinchenko wouldn't have pushed past him, and others, you wouldn't be playing right backs at left back, and all this other stuff that's happened. Centre backs, basically, Arsenal haven't been able to get fit fullbacks, so they've basically converted centre backs to fullbacks. Is what they've ended up doing. Sent Calafiore as a centre back, and he's playing at left back, and they've signed Ben White, who's a centre back, and he's playing at right back. So I think it's a bit of a moot point. He's not been fit, and I'd be struggling to see how he could remain fit for enough games to make it worth our while, unless we manage to persuade him to come on some sort of weird pay-as-you-play deal, which, is he going to take that? He would presumably get more money than a pay-as-you-play deal at Celtic. It's somebody else who was willing to take a gamble in a league with too much money. So I look, this, the heart says, oh, maybe we can get him fit and what a player he'll be. The head says, I can't see how he's going to get, he's not getting any younger. I think he's 27. Let's be completely clear about this. Celtic shafted that player by pumping him full of cortisone in his teens, overplaying him. And look, he'll have wanted to play, but we didn't manage that kid well at all. We overplayed him. We played him through injury, and he's got lasting damage, which I can't see how he'll ever be back to a player that will play 40, 50, 60 games a season, club and country. I just can't see it. So we need to carry, and Brendan Rodgers was there at the period when a lot of this happened early on. Yeah, the romantic in me says, if we can get him fit, and even if he plays 30 games a season at a high level, great. I just can't see it. But, as Ian says, there's plenty of rumours there, so I can see how it would end up coming back.
30 is the number, isn't it, Paul? 30 is the number.
If you could get 30,
if you could get 30 out of him, I know it was a reasonable thing because of the intangibles that he brings. So, like his personality, like the fact that he's a fan, he's a leader around the dressing room and stuff like that, and that's the sort of characters we need. Yeah, 100%. But if you don't think you're going to get those 30 games a season at least, because then you're looking at who is, he can't really be a first choice right back, left back, even at 30 games. Do you know what I mean? Because he can't be relied upon. So we'd be going in with a Taylor, with a Valley to the Champions League. So yeah.
I feel like we'd end up in another CCV situation. You like you say, and you can't pick the games that you want him to play. CCV's missed the Champions League the last 2 seasons, and he's looking, he's already missing games this season. So the games you want a CCV for, a KT for, are Europe and the derbies. We don't need the likes of CCV and Taylor for KT for a lot of the league game fodder. But the big games, you really want that quality. You can't guarantee that they're playing in those games.
The other thing you have to take into consideration is that Brendan Rodgers might not want him back as a left back, right? I mean, there could be the scenario that he's looking at that defensive midfield, and when KT was here previously, people said he had all the attributes to play in midfield. Do you know what I mean? Because he could pass a ball, he was composed, had the good technical ability and stuff like that. So there could be the curveball of that he's not going to have the same sort of demands put in his body. We know he can play centre back. Would he play centre back for us? I don't know. So we're looking at him as a left back in a very specific set of,
say skills.
What we know. Yeah, but what we know about him, and there could be a number of things. But again, it's kind of like the appointment of the Tisdale guy. Is if they bring him back, if they bring KT, then you've got to just trust that they're doing it for the right reasons. It's a good deal, and it makes sense somewhere along the lines.
The last thing I'd say on this is, people say, never put up with players that leave. He was pretty much forced out the door. I wouldn't be surprised if Lol drove him to bloody London himself. Celtic don't reject a £25 million offer. So, however, he was getting a massive money, but even if he said, I don't want the massive money, I'll stay here, his arm would have been twisted and pushed out the door. That's how Celtic have always operated and how we will continue to operate. We need those fees at certain points, and we were never going to not take that.
And the thing is, Paul, he's not like Liam Miller. Do you know what I mean? He's not like he gave us a good few seasons as well, and he was reaching that peak where he kind of earned the transfer. He's not like a Liam Miller guy who like played for 6 months and then just buggered off as soon as Alex Ferguson picked up the phone. It's like it's completely different, for me, Katie, I shouldn't be held in that same sort of space.
Should he be held in the same sort of space as James McCarthy?
I mean, is James McCarthy is he alive? Where is he? Have we seen him? I mean, the thing is, James McCarthy, that's a bit shady in James McCarthy, right? When that deal was made, everyone was like, what are you doing? That is ridiculous. Like, I do think it's slightly different. Everyone knew the James McCarthy one wasn't worth the gamble because he had such a bad injury record and he was going to be in such a big wage and stuff like that. I think, yes, Katie has the injury record, but then he's a completely different character. Yeah, I mean, I can see the similarities, but put it this way, the McCarthy one, I was like, there's no merit to this whatsoever. The KT one, I can see the merit and the logic of thinking, but maybe that's just me.
And of course, I suppose as long as the Greg Taylor lack of contract situation goes on, that adds fuel to this particular conversation.
Yeah, well, we could have no left back in 8 months' time.
Yeah. So get him on loan, and then we still have no left back in 8 months' time. Yeah, anyway, I have a funny feeling. I never really felt there was much in it before, but something tells me that, maybe there's a bit more truth in it this time. I suppose it's just a photograph of Rodgers there, looking like he's giving him the hard
Rodgers
signal.
is finessing him, that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? And he's a difficult man to under that spell.
Yeah, interesting one. Right, what else is in the news? Oh yeah, there's a clock change coming up, isn't there? Spring forward, fall back soon in the UK, like towards the end of October. The clocks are gonna fall back because it's autumn. So that's going to play havoc. I saw, Paul, you were complaining about the kickoff times. Looking forward to the next few months. Brutal kickoff times for us.
There's a few shockers. That Hearts game at like 5:30 or something daft on is it a Saturday night or a Sunday night? That's fucking brutal. That'll be like 1:30 a.m. So yeah, there's when it goes for us, Gav, it goes from 7 hours to 8 hours. It just pushes everything back a little bit. Obviously. But yeah, some of those new fixtures that have seemed to have come out of the woodwork, like these bloody 5:30 kickoffs on the weekend, it's just daft.
And I'll tell you what doesn't help. The CelticFC website, when you look up Celtic fixtures on it, I don't know if you've ever done this, Paul, but I'll share this and I will talk over this image. Like, it's supposed to give you, look at it. Here's 10 o'clock at night, the Aberdeen game. Right, so that's obviously my time, local time, right? So they've adjusted the times to be Malaysia. Atalanta kicks off after midnight. Motherwell, 3 p.m. What's going on? Dundee, 3:45 a.m. That's actually accurate because that's after the clocks change and it's very late in the evening. Then we're back to 5:30 in the evening, Aberdeen. That's not my time. 4 a.m., that's my time. 3 p.m., that's not my time. Anyway, I think you get the picture. That's a bit of a poor show. Either show local times or show my time.
Do you not use an app, Gav? Like Foot Mobile, whatever it's called. I use that and it just gives me all the fixtures, and I think they'll probably have invested the time into just to getting the stuff right. I never use the Celtic website unless it's to read some.
How hard is it to get that right? Come on, it's the Celtic official.
Not hard, but I mean, the other way to look at it is there's probably a functionality in the website that needs to be done and given to the development team to do it, and it'll be low down on the list of priorities because it's only you visiting that one because everyone else uses an app.
Look at you, Mr. No Headphones, giving me grief, being a Luddite. All right. What else is in news? There's obviously the game is coming up. As I say, it's 10 p.m. my time, which is 11 p.m. Korea, which is perfect time for Dano and
It's when he
X-Men.
wakes up, isn't it?
Echo. That's Dano and X-Men there. And obviously Kaiser looking very handsome in that particular photograph. So they'll be doing the drink along if anyone fancies it. Ian, you've never partaken of a drink along, have you?
No, one, because I don't drink, just because I just haven't. I don't, like I did when I was young, don't now. And two, because I'm always in the CSC when the matches are on proper television.
Down in, what's the name of your CSC again? The pub?
The Rummer, which is opposite the Castle.
The Rummer Tavern.
If anyone's in Cardiff, everyone always welcome. We always have people that are here from everywhere. The fixture before we broke up, someone literally came off the plane and drove straight there. So that's commitment for you.
Did you ever show the owners of the pub the old video that we looked at with the nice?
Well, the owners have changed since that was recorded, Gav. So
the owners change every few months in that place.
It's some who knows what it is, but we've still got the room, so that's the main consideration. And they've got food back on again, which is good for it, because for a while it was sneaking Subways from next door or Burger King. So
cornerstone of any nutritious dinner. All right, Paolo, let's move it on then. Talk about your local team, shall we?
Fraserburgh.
The team local to where you grew up.
You mean Aberdeen? You mean Aberdeen? Okay.
You and your Chester accent.
Come on, we're not going down that road. In Australia, people think I'm Glaswegian, so that tells you a little bit about how good they are with Scottish accents. That's latterly in the last few years. Prior to that, everybody assumed I was Irish. To be fair, Perth's got a ton of Irish, so the Scottish and Irish accent close enough. One or the other.
Because of the twinkle in your eye, I think.
I think I always enjoyed, and you did say Aberdeen because nobody's heard of Fraserburgh, but yeah, if people ask me where in Ireland I was from, I used to say Aberdeen, and that really confused them. So they obviously worked out that wasn't an island, but there we go.
I get one even worse. I get told I've got an Edinburgh accent, and that kills me. I'd prefer a Glasgow uni accent or something. I'd prefer that slur versus Edinburgh. So, but it's because in my youth, I lived up in Balmedy and Arbroath and Dundee. So I moved around a lot, which is why my accent is nondescript or like it's from Edinburgh.
English people have often asked me what part of Scotland I'm from. And then I say the very west, and then whereabouts? Belfast. And I'm like, what? All right. So the Aberdeen game, well, let me introduce this by showing a couple of pictures as you two remain silent. Here's the league table. Obviously, it's top of the table clash. Both of us sitting pretty there on 21 points. Obviously, the form table is very similar. What's of note here? Well, the goal difference is quite stark. And then the clean sheets percentages. Quite interesting. There's a massive gulf there. And I don't know that much about Aberdeen. I haven't really watched them at all this season. So I don't know much about the players. So I'm going to be asking you to tell me, what do you know basically about these players? Who are the danger men? What are we expecting from this match? Paul, are you a bit more clued up on the team?
Yes and no. I guess so there's a couple of things that I've done a little bit of background on this. I guess the first thing is fantastic start to the season. I can't help feeling it's been a little bit overhyped by the media. This stuff about 14 games, 14 wins and a trot or whatever it is in all competitions. Well, the fodder in the League Cup and one cup tie and the bottom half of the Premier League. I'm sorry, but as good as that is compared to previous form, I'm going to be a little bit gung-ho and say, who have they played? Who have they beaten? They've not played Celtic, Rangers, Dundee United or Hibs. We'd say big clubs. In 7 league games, only twice have they not won by a single goal. only twice they've kept a clean sheet. So they've beaten Hearts, who we know are dreadful, by the odd goal in 5. They beat Dundee 2-1, Motherwell 2-1, Ross County 1-0, St Johnstone 2-1, St Mirren 3-1, Killie 2-0. So, and they've come back from being down, so there's a bit of resilience there. But I can't help feeling, and I haven't watched much of them at all, but I can't help feeling that this is a classic example of, a little bit of a run against pretty average teams being blown out of proportion, potentially because Aberdeen are desperate to be relevant and to be good again. Well, they are. They are.
Which podcast am I on? I'm feeling like I'm going to have to defend Aberdeen here. I feel like you've just prepared Paul to just go in hard and 2 foot the life out of Aberdeen here.
Well, look, I know that city, and that city craves a return to any kind of success.
Fair enough.
I obviously grew up in the 80s when they were the best team in the country, and they can't help but, most of them are Manchester United supporters these days because Ferguson went down there and kept winning. You won't find many Aberdeen fans that are not Manchester United fans at the same time these days.
There's an agenda here. You've got some sort of agenda here.
Not at all. Look, the new manager seems to have done well. He's got progressive ideas. He's put together a decent squad. And he probably will give us a game. But for them, this is the acid test. And really, this is not going to define their season, Celtic at Celtic Park. But, yeah, I'm not getting carried away with Aberdeen like a lot of people in the country seem to back in Scotland. This stall 14 games. Best team in Europe, I heard, because they've won. They're undefeated in all competitions. They've not played any European football. Well done. So yeah, look, I'm not as impressed as some. I'm not writing them off. I think they'll have them well organised and they'll be stuffy. But if we've got what we've been, if we get anywhere, but I think it's come at a good time for them. Obviously, the break has sort of stopped our momentum. We'll be having to start from scratch. Players, I don't suppose many of their players have had to do any kind of international travel, and ours will be all over the globe. So that'll be a leveler. But at home, I'd expect us to put together a good enough performance to beat them. But yeah, that's my view on Aberdeen. Ian, come and defend them. Go for it.
I just think, look, I think I understand your viewpoint, but look, and I'm not saying this is right, but if that was Rangers sitting in second place and they were playing a 4-2-3-1, and Monty's not going to let me use the word progressive, but a progressive type of football, had integrated signing successfully, having a goal scorer like Nisbet that, remember, I think he's injured, Papa Guy or whatever, players like that, they'd be winning the blooming every competition they were in. So I kind of think, is it over-egged? I think I think they've had a great start. I think they're doing things differently and they're not just serving up the same old dross. So I think they actually need to be given a bit of credit. And I think that's what's happening, is they're getting a bit of credit for the start they've made, because as we will say ourselves, Paul, we can only beat what's in front of us. They can only beat what's in front of them, and they have a perfect record. They've got a better goal difference than a team that's below them with a vastly superior budget and all the chatter that comes from that. Like we said, Nisbet, great signing. I'm looking at some of the notes with the different things. Jamie McGrath as well. So they've got players. They've got a good system. They're trying to do things in a good way. And I think it's going to be difficult for us because it's not the same dross. It's not just from Rangers down to St Johnstone, it's the same murder ball, with just better players. Rangers are absolutely honking. You know what I mean? It's they don't deserve any of the credit that the Dafties give them. Aberdeen, I think, this is the test for them. We are the test. And there are bigger games that are going to be the test. But do you know what? See if they come out of it like that. If you think the praise is too much now, they're going to have a lot of praise. I think it's very dangerous for us because it's a different challenge. So let's see how we go on. But I think they deserve the praise. They've beaten what's in front of them. They've integrated the players. They're playing a nice, decent, progressive style of football. So for me, I think big danger.
I think if they play that kind of football against us, we'll pick them off because there's wide open
Like
space.
Falkirk, like when Falkirk played that sort of football.
We were murdered that day. I think we'll pick them off. We'll pick them off.
I was reminded watching something earlier today to try and gather some information about them, really, is that they were very good for a while under the temporary manager, that guy, Peter Levens, is that his name? Levens. He came in and made them look a solid unit. I wonder, is Jimmy Tillene really working his magic, or were they actually quite good and all they needed was to be a bit organised? I know he's brought in a few other players. They've sort of settled in, a bit of experience, sort of.
I think it's mentality as well, though, Gav, right? Because Aberdeen are traditionally like whatever they are a big club in terms of Scottish, and they do have a European heritage and things like that. And I think it's difficult because the expectations for them are quite high. It's like with Hearts, even to an extent with Dundee United. And I think having like a kind of Scandinavian person in there, maybe it benefits them like it did with Skobdal. Do you know what I mean? They did well with them because they're kind of more chilled out, don't take the pressure that comes for all the media like on board too much, because McInnes dealt with it relatively well. So I think it could be a cocktail of different bits and pieces. But I think he's a decent manager with a decent record, and maybe he's got a decent mentality to deal with the intricacies of being maybe the third team or the challenging for second team.
Yeah.
I think he's clearly a good manager. He's highly rated in Sweden. Johan Mjällby's on record as saying he's the best manager that's come through the Swedish system in some time. So I'm not disregarding that he's a good hire, and he's made some good moves in the signing Mitov for the goalkeeping position from St Johnstone was a really good pickup. Because that's one of the reasons that they were poor last year is the goalkeeping position wasn't strong. So I think he's done. I think you're right, Ian. He's made some good signing. He's integrated players. I was being a little bit kind of inflammatory at the outset, as you picked up on. But I think it's a valid point. Yeah, they've beaten what's in front of them, but they've beaten them, pretty average fodder by the odd goal in most games, and not managed to keep a clean sheet very often, including shipping 2 to Hearts, and that's a game Hearts should have won. So yeah, look, I think there's going to be bumps in the road. 7 out of 7 is good, but yeah, it'll be an interesting game. As I say, the momentum's been taken out of our sails by the international break, so it will be a bit of a leveler, but I'd still expect us to beat them over the course of the 90 minutes or however many minutes we play.
Yeah, as you say, and as Monty says there, we turn up, we take nothing for granite, and we play our game. We should bag the 3 points, let's be honest. But yeah, we don't want to underestimate them. As Plunge, in fact, says here, we won't underestimate Aberdeen, but we're a far better team and should win comfortably. Yes, we should. Now, how much have we got one eye on the terror of another potential Euro drubbing just around the corner? Is that how you're looking at it?
The thing is, see, with Atalanta, I think it's different styles of football as well, right? I'm not saying Atalanta aren't a good team and stuff like that, but Italian teams famous last words, don't tend to hand out big hammerings like Dortmund do. I mean, we could be completely outplayed in the same way, and it would still be like 3-0 because that's kind of, they would prefer a clean sheet to scoring 8 but conceding like one or 2. I think the European games will take care of themselves. I think especially after an international break, it's important to take the 3 points from Aberdeen. I'm not saying it's not important in Europe, but I just kind of think you can't look that far ahead to that because you'll take your eye off the ball, and we really want to be. It serves us better to be dominant and as far ahead as possible going into the winter break as possible to see what we need to do in Europe, etc. So I think it's all. And again, I have no problems, no reservations. Rodgers will have them focused in Aberdeen. They won't be thinking about Atlanta. Yeah, can't see it.
Just a little break there. When you talk about taking your eye off the ball, I too shouldn't take my eye off the ball. I should always remember on every show to make a heartfelt appeal that if you're enjoying this in any way, if you enjoyed any element of this conversation, do what you got to do. Help a brother out. Click subscribe. Helps us grow the channel. It's only our second season. We're pushing up to get to like 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. Yes, you heard me right. 1.5. So that's how important it is. Your subscription would make a big difference to that number. Not like these other channels with 50K. You're nobody to them, just a number. Whereas we value every single one. So if after this show I see the number creeping up, that's gives us great joy. So, help a brother out. Cost you nothing. We'll never charge you for content. We're not owned by a newspaper. What other things can I say like that? That'll do. All right. Subscribe. Smash that like button.
And click like as well.
Click like. It helps out a ton with the algorithm, apparently.
Other like-minded Celtics. I can't even keep a straight face when I say it.
Other like-minded Celtic fans. Yeah. All right. So, do we want to do score predictions, Tal? Then what do we think? They're not going to keep a clean sheet. We're going to score
3-1.
Yeah, I was going to say 3-1 actually.
1-0 or 2-1. I think it's going to be tight. I just, don't get me wrong, I understand everyone's saying about if we play our game and stuff like that, but it's just these ones after the international break, they've had a long time to prepare for this game, and we've had players away in internationals, etc. I think we should do it, but I think it's going to be one of those hairy games. The good thing is they're not going to sit in like a Ross County and we're going to have to break them down. That's the good thing. The bad thing is like, will the defence be able to handle like an actual challenge for a change?
Do we think he's going to play the team that starts against Atalanta?
No.
Okay. What lineup changes are we expecting to see?
Well, I'd throw Luke Cowan into this game, because unlike some of the players that have been running around playing 2 or 3 games during the break and traveling all over the place and in planes, he's just been back kind of on the training ground, and he'll be itching for a start. And there'll be a game with a bit of dig in it, but he's got that, but he's also can get his foot on the ball and play a bit. I'd start Luke Cowan, and look, I would be picking a team that's most of whom might play in midweek, but definitely mix it up a little bit.
I haven't figured them out yet, because last season you kind of knew exactly what you'd do. This season, especially when he changed everything for Falkirk, I just don't know. There's the argument is there to start the same team that will be in Atlanta, because everything's prepared for that and everyone's ready for it, and you don't want to make changes and you want to say this is my team. But I also see McCowan, an argument for McCowan, Bernardo, like a change in the midfield and stuff like that. It'd be interesting to see if Taylor's back. I don't know if he is. If Vi is going to start there, because we may only have one option there. So yeah, I can't second guess it.
CCV and defence there for Monty.
It's a difficult one with CCV. It depends. Like, I can't. Do we think he can't be 100%? He certainly can't be 100% match fit. So if he's going to play against Atlanta, you want to get him some minutes in the legs. Yeah. But he's the kind of one that if you give him 45 or even 60, you wouldn't let him play 90 ahead of that game, surely. So yeah, I think there'll be a bit of squad management. To some degree, Atalanta's a big game, but if Rodgers is true to his word and plays the same way, we'll get absolutely scalped regardless who plays that day. So I disagree with Ian. They've beaten Lecce 4-0. They've beaten can't remember, played somebody just before the break. They beat them 5-1. Gasparini plays a brand of football with that likes to score goals and will play a really high press. And we couldn't live with Dortmund when they did that. And I genuinely fear that we could get absolutely horsed there.
Thanks for just shattering my lovely blanket of ignorance there, Paul.
Sorry, mate. I did a tiny bit of research when you said that they'll stop.
No, I did a tiny bit of research.
I did it while you. As soon as you said 3-0, I was like, let's have a look at their previous score. Sorry, mate.
5 minutes ago, I was like, oh, it's kind of positive, and then you've just come in and you've ripped that coat of ignorance off, and I'm left naked and crying.
It's a lovely image.
Genoa. They beat Genoa 5-1 right before the international break. So, and they beat Shakhtar. They beat Shakhtar Donetsk 3-0, right? So that away from home. And I got a 0-0 draw with Arsenal. So, like, anyone that thinks that there's much of a drop off between Dortmund and them, I think is kind of dreaming.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that game when we get closer to it. We've got Aberdeen to deal with first of all. So that just about wraps it up. I think.
Hold on, Gav. What's your prediction?
Well, my prediction's a 3-1. I was going to say as well. I think we'll score, but I think we're not out of the woods. We're still a bit shaky, and we probably are going to concede one. I suspect. I don't think it'll be smooth sailing, but I think we'll come through it. That's the most important thing. But it's not ideal preparation for what's going to happen in Bergamo, which I'm quite fearful of. But, never mind that. Let's move on to some little bit of other silly little Celtic social type things. We were talking about, what I was going to say, we were talking about TV times. This is a TV thing. I found myself watching The Traitors. Have you heard of that show? It's like a reality show.
Yeah.
And this series I watched was one which had some reality stars in it. They're Americans, and they all go over to Scotland.
Is this the Alan Cumming thing?
Yes, they stay in a castle.
Scotland.
You're going to remain quiet while I look at these pictures. It's in this sort of Ardross area of Scotland. It's up like Glenmorangy's up there, Tain, this part of the world, the Cromarty Firth, Loch Glass. That's not a million miles away from you, I suppose, Paul. I mean, it's not nearby, but it's sort of up there. Do you know that part of Scotland, either of you?
Not really, not a huge amount. It's I'm not a massive whiskey man, so it's kind of whiskey country, isn't it? So yeah, not spent a lot of time through that corridor. I spent more time on the west coast.
Been there at various points, but it's like you say, it's Whiskey Trail. There's not a lot out there.
Looks lovely though, and also looking lovely is this Alan Cumming, who is the very sort of flamboyant host of the show, and like he is so camp in it. And when he started off being like an actor, he wasn't particularly, was he?
He was. Do you remember a sitcom called The High Life in the early early 90s?
Yeah, I think you also have to understand the climate as well. When Alan Cummins started out, if he did an interview and stuff, he couldn't dial it up to 10. Right. He can dial up to 10 quite comfortably now.
He doesn't hold back. He's all over the place. It's funny. It's a great show. I'm really enjoying it. It's almost finished, the first series. Kate from Below Deck is in it.
Jesus, how have we got down this rabbit hole?
Well, this is the time of the show for rabbit holes. And,
I only know what Below Deck is because my missus watches it when
it's great.
Not in front of the telly.
It's fantastic.
No.
Well, anyway, my Celtic social choice was the guy wearing an Ireland shirt with Dodgy Box as the sponsor instead of Sky is an absolute genius. You may have seen a couple of these. One had Dodgy Box, another guy had Fire Stick or something, didn't he? Now, what's going on in the UK? Are they trying to crack down on people using dodgy boxes, fire sticks?
I think they're always trying to crack down. I mean, the thing is, it's kind of rife. I think the problem is at the moment is it's not a sound financial investment to be investing in Sky Sports. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you have access to or know someone who can give you access to a Fire Stick, I don't think there's many people out there that would be like, oh, I'm actually going to give 10 times the amount to Sky for less of a service. So I'm hoping it'll, like with everything, you hope it'll eventually be a catalyst for some sort of change, because it is just like it's too much. And you don't mind paying for things that you value, but what you don't want to do is overpay for a segment of the things that you value. Do you know what I mean? Like, you look at the Celtic games here now, Sky, Premier, some European ones on Amazon. I'm sure there's someone else. Is it TNT, which is BT? You know, it's a cross of so many. So I think the subscription, if you wanted to guarantee we're watching all the Celtic games, is sometimes per month it's up at like 100, 120 pounds, and a Fire Stick, I don't know, could be between £60 to £100 for the year. So financially,
well, let's not get into the details. It sounds like we're sponsored by Google Fire Stick, and we're not.
Well, it's Amazon Fire Stick.
I beg your pardon?
It's Amazon Fire Stick.
Ian's all over it.
Yeah. Xiaomi in this part of the world, but or so I've heard. The UK version is better, apparently, according to Michael Ross. I saw the first British one where it was normal people, not reality stars, and that was good. You know,
apparently the first season of the Australian one is good. A couple of people have told me that who watch it. So if you enjoyed it, Gav, the first season, because apparently you had a psychopath on. Apparently, I don't want to spoil it too much in case you do watch it, but apparently there was a proper psychopath on the first season of the Australian one, and it was hilarious because he was...
See if we can find it through legal means only. Paul, I'm going to flash up your image and then you're going to talk to us about it afterwards. This is it. Talk to me.
Thomas Tuchel been appointed as the England manager, and in typical right-wing press fashion, there's all sorts of arseholes, we'll call them, coming out of the woodwork saying this is an abomination. We can't have a German manager or a non-English manager, etc., etc. So clearly, usual xenophobic pish. So I thought, the reminder that the royal family is a bunch of Germans, and they're quite happy with them, flag shaggers. I thought that was quite funny. I guess.
How dare you call the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha clan German?
Yeah, Deutsch through and through. On a more serious note, it's quite a worrying appointment because I think he'll actually do quite a good job.
It is worrying, actually. I'm a bit worried.
No.
You're not
We've
worried
seen this movie many times before.
They have to win eventually.
They look. There's a
They've got good
that are going to be very annoyed that they can no longer sing their German Bombers song in complete comfort and control. The first misstep he makes, the media will be all over him. They should have an English manager and stuff like this. Do not worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I am worried. I am worried.
We've seen this movie before. They'll sabotage themselves. They're absolute masters at it. There is no one in world football that does it better than the English media and that English national team. And it's already started. First question that comes out to him, is he going to sing the English national anthem? As if that makes any difference whatsoever. So they better hope it's a
He said he hadn't decided, which is even dafter.
Yeah.
Why is... Yeah, no, I just think that they've got good players. They've got really good players, and mentality is a massive issue. And the Germans are nothing if not organised with great mentality. So if he can build that around the quality of players in that squad, I am concerned for the World Cup in 2026.
Serious question from Michael Ross here. Am I the only one that calls him Thomas Tickle?
Well, it depends. Does Michael know him personally? Because that sounds like quite a personal nickname.
Frank coming in signature style. Tuchel the Kraut will certainly be better than Failgate, says he.
Does Frank work for the Daily Mail?
That's quite well crafted, though, you have to say.
Probably. He certainly got the right tone.
You got to admire his turn of phrase
Tuchel
there.
woke nonsense.
What's that?
I'm saying Tuchel woke nonsense if it was a Daily Mail headline.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that just about does it, I think, for today, gents. Yeah, we're looking forward to the game. It's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be our best test domestically so far, I think, as we probably all think. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Hopefully, there's only going to be potentially one team left with 100% record. And let's hope it's us. So your closing thoughts then, Paul, before I wrap it up?
Yeah, well, I think it'll be a great game. I might not be across the detail of it. One of my best mates in the world is coming over here tomorrow. He's in Sydney these days. We met in London a few years ago. I say a few years ago, over 10 years ago. So looking forward to some quality time with him. And at 10 p.m. kickoff, when we'll probably start drinking in the Arvo, my knowledge of being able to remember the game could be quite sketchy. So I'll probably have to watch it back on Sunday, I imagine. But yeah, I remain confident that we'll get the result we need.
Will you be drinking a few stubbies in the Avo Inn?
We
I'll
doesn't
be
drink.
having
Oh,
a
no,
couple of
you won't be.
a couple of Diet Cokes, I will, Gavin. So maybe some pork scratchings in the rummer.
Pork scratchings in the rubber. That sounds good.
Whilst
Well,
Terry, who's the lead of the CSC, tries
Yeah.
to get me to buy raffle tickets. So that's what my pre-match will be. I'm trying to avoid buying countless raffle tickets.
well, on that bombshell, I think we'll leave it there as I thank everyone who's in the chat. Thank you so much for all your participation. You make the show as much as anyone else. Okay, so we will reconvene on Monday to discuss what happened. Until then, hail, hail.